Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies. It seems we're having a couple of tech issues. Please bear with us. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Oh, here we go. We might be on. This is live, so please bear with us as we put this all in place for you guys. Thank you. Well, I think we can get started. So while the team behind the scenes trying to fix some of the tech issues, we've got a video to show. We're going to go through some slides, but I think before we start, we can start with a welcome to everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. It's a great presentation, a great subject, how to start your side hustle, make some cash and turn it into a business. We're hearing more and more in the media about people having a hobby or passion, or even their current role and feeling they can do it better than where they sit at the moment, starting in their garage or starting working very smallly on the side or starting completely as an e-commerce business and turning it into a lifestyle or a great little secondary cash flow, or eventually even a business. So today we're going to explore that in quite a bit of detail, because we're getting asked lots of those questions. So many of you people online today have asked or part of the RJ Sanderson team in the past some of these questions, and many of you have submitted questions prior today. So we'll go over those today, which will be fantastic. We also want to take the chance on behalf of RJ Sanderson and everybody online today. Make sure we send out hello and thoughts with everybody in lockdown. We understand it's very difficult for everybody across Australia, particularly in Victoria, and we have friends and colleagues in New Zealand and Sydney as well. So we're all very well aware it's very tough and thinking of you. If we at RJ Sanderson can be of any assistance, please just reach out. Please just give us a call, phone, or an email. We'd love to catch up. The team's there very ready to talk. They're very much in it with you as well. They're all in lockdown too. And trying to do our very best to make sure we can meet your tax, compliance, planning, financial and wealth goals working remotely. So the business is very much open. The whole team's there. We're just not in the offices. We're doing what you are, working from home, sharing the offices with our cats, our dogs and our kids. And we're very much here ready to help. Again, our thoughts are with you. Helping me today to talk about this very important topic is Roy Sanderson and Katrina Paulbrook. Roy, thanks for joining us, mate. Looking forward to your insights today. Nearly 30 years experience in this area.
Yes, Paul. Should be good. Looking forward to it.
Should be good. Katrina, you also, you've had probably a lot less years experience, I won't say, but you've been all over this for many, many years. So thanks for joining us as well. Looking forward to your insights.
Thanks, Paul. Looking forward to speaking with everyone. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we have moved slides. We're onto a very dodgy photo of me. Emily or Stella, can we move into the video to start, or have we still got a couple of issues there? Okay, let's hit play and see how we go on this, ladies and gents. It's a great story. I might have to do the voiceover. This is Steve Jobs talking about how lucky he was. His key message in this video is how lucky he was to discover what he loved very early on. What he also talks about is him and his partner started, believe it or not, in Steve Jobs' parents' garage when he was 20. By the time he was 30, it was a $2 billion company. He then goes on to say not long after that he was sacked, which put him into a state of flux. He didn't really know what to do. And he talks about he spent quite a bit of time even thinking about running away from Silicon Valley. He then comes back to his first point that he was lucky very early on to find something he was passionate about, which, as I said in my opening remarks, where we get most queries about our clients who are passionate, have a hobby, have something they feel they can do more and better than where they're in their current role and want to drive for success. Hence the side hustle. Now, not all side hustles turn out like Apple. Lots do. For you Victorians online, Rip Curl was a side hustle. Started out in the back of a VW van, then renting little surfing sheds. Went on to become a multi. So there are lots of examples of side hustles doing very well. Steve Jobs' key point here, and you can see it on the slide. Thanks for putting that up, Stella. Is the only way to do great work is to love what you do, and he speaks about that passionately in this small clip. And if we can't get it working, in fact, I think we won't get it working, Em. We'll get this out in our post-event communications to make sure everyone has access to it. So to love what you do, and if you haven't found it yet, this is also his second and really strong point, is keep looking and don't settle. So in other words, no one's impinged into what they're doing. If you have a passion, you have a drive and a goal, that's a great place to start. And Steve Jobs shares, he went on to start a small company we may have heard of called Pixar as well, after getting sacked by Apple and then getting dragged back into Apple. The key points are, you can be anything you like starting from inside your own garage as long as you love it, and that you have the drive to do it and keep finding the joy, not settling for it. So that's really a great introduction to what we're here to talk about today. So maybe we've got the ability to move slides now if our technology is up to speed. We don't have to be an Apple, but can we change slides? Yes, we are. Fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Very lucky to be Group Head of Wealth and working with RJS Sanderson to help many of our clients achieve their goals. Thanks, Stella. For those of you who aren't clients of RJS Sanderson and don't know about the business, we'll talk very briefly about us today. 10 locations, over 100 staff and over 35,000 clients, growing very steadily in Victoria. And today is a national webinar. So we do have clients all over Australia as well, and a couple of international. So it's a very lovely team, great to work with. And we have the founder and director online with us as well, and Roy Sanderson. So thanks, guys. How do we continue to grow and how do we continue to drive success? It's based on a couple of key fundamentals. Firstly and foremost, we're in the people business, so we surround ourselves with fantastic people. And to do that, we make sure that the people we work with, you, are at the center of everything we do. So your financial potential is really our key foundation, where we start to address that and to continue to strive for success and be better. Very simply, we surround you with a team of professionals. And this diagram here just demonstrates how we do that. We put obviously our accounting, compliance, and wealth teams and specialists around you to achieve your goals, quite simply because your goals change as you work your way through life, and you need to be looking to a team that can assist you with that at every stage, which is great. So we call that an integrated service solution. It means you have all of your advice in one place. It also means we get to share that information and make sure you get advice and inquiries and questions and answers, of course, and direction, support, help without blinkers. That means we can have a much wider view for you, which is great. It's how we built the business, and it's growing very well. So thanks, Stella. A general advice warning, as with all of our webinars, as I said right at the start, they are live and interactive. So please keep those questions coming. There's a little chat box down the bottom. Please feel free to add to that. If it's relevant or if I do have time with our panelists during the session, I will direct the team to it. Otherwise, I'll come back to it at the end. We have got a tremendous amount of questions submitted earlier. So we built the presentation around answering those. And if we don't get to them, we will answer that question and answer. So please feel free to get involved, get interactive, but be aware that nothing we give today, nothing we speak about today is personal advice. It will be very general in its nature. It will resonate with many of you because a lot of you are asking the same questions, but please don't implement anything we say here today. Please give us a call, reach out so we can, again, dig a bit deeper and ask a lot more questions before we start to help you. Thanks, Stella. Joining me today, the beautiful faces of Katrina and Roy. Beautiful faces and fantastic people. As I said earlier, enormous amount of experience across wealth and business, and have been coaching people and business owners for many, many years. So we've talked about this offline. We've had a bit of a chat, and over the time I've been working with the guys, they're always great to get some insights with. So looking forward to that today. Thanks for joining us, KP and Roy. Thanks, Stella. So the side hustle, success lies ahead. Something we talk about a lot in our business is you have to go to success. It won't come to you, which is a great little point to start, because I think I'll put to you first, Roy. Side hustle's great. We've got lots and lots of success stories. The internet and e-commerce has allowed us to share those faster and grow faster. It's given us the ability to scale. It's given us the ability to have the Instagram billionaires, the influencers, all those types of things. And what it doesn't always show is the hard work that goes in behind it, and the strategies and the plan to success. Because do you agree that having a good or a great idea and a good or a great market may not always be enough?
No, it's definitely not enough. There's so many things that go into making a success of a side hustle. And I might just clarify right at the start, we're not talking here about a second job where you work, for so many hours, 40 hours a week in one job, and you go and get a part-time job as a cleaner or an admin person. So we're talking here about your own business, going into business yourself as a secondary item, a side hustle that might grow into something huge. But it's not just about the idea. There are so many things that are going to go into this to make it successful. And we'll talk about that throughout the next 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, great. KP, did you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely right. Roy's right on the money there. It's not really about a hobby turning it into a business. What we're going to talk about today is actually setting up a structure and having all the right things in place to set yourself up with a successful business, such as the sign says.
Yeah, that's plenty of hard work. Okay, well, let's jump into, we'll go to the next slide. Let's jump into where do we start? And the facts are pretty stark for those people out there looking to, the entrepreneurs in the world. Some of the things we need to know, need to be aware of, that those without a plan, these are just the facts, those without a plan, with a plan, those with a plan who have spoken to a professional and put plenty of time and effort into achieving their goals, those with a plan are 22% more likely to grow their business. And as every business owner will tell you, if you're not growing, you're going backwards because the world's moving on without you. So you need to be growing. So if only 22% of people are more likely to grow, it's a pretty stark place to start. If you have a plan, you're 20% more likely to have secure investment of capital, and you're 18% more likely to secure a loan. So they all address one thing. If you're growing and looking to expand, having a structure and plan in place is important because it shows that you won't achieve them. In fact, most businesses fail in the first 5 years. But when you're looking to scale, you need that structure because it's one of the first things your accountant's going to ask for and your bank manager is going to ask for is a business plan. Did you want to talk to that? Roy, where have you seen people do really well in that part?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think anybody who goes into business has a business plan. Everybody does. The difference is some people have it all up in their heads. If it's just in your head, that's not classed as a proper business plan. It needs to be written down, put on paper, maybe checked with other people, whether it's an accountant or another professional or somebody in the industry. And if you don't have the business plan written down, and so many businesses fail in the first 5 years, and they, the stats show 25% won't last 5 years. Only 25% will pass 5 years, and then potentially only 25% of them last 10 years. So a successful business to start from scratch, it has the odds against it. So ticking some boxes are very important. One of them is to have a written business plan.
Yeah, absolutely. KP, do you have any insights on that with the people you've worked with?
I think, Roy, that's correct. And we all start off with an idea that we'd like to have for a business, and it might be something we're passionate about, might be something that we're very good with. But there's always those things that you don't know that you don't know. So what's very, very important is to surround yourself with people who are very professional and know what they're doing and have years' experience to help you, and let them in to help mentor you along the way.
I think that's a great point. Allow them in. It's quite a brave thing to go and seek mentorship or advice from other people. So because they will challenge, they will think differently to you. They haven't got that emotional connection, so they'll have a deeper view, and you need to be ready to address that and accept that. Roy, when you first started out, did you get pushed on your plans? Did you feel uncomfortable at any stage?
For our personal business plan, when we started out 27 odd years ago, I had a business plan that chopped and changed and started off as one thing and then looked at another thing. And then I sat down and spoke to actually my wife, Christine, and we talked about the highs and lows, the possibilities, the worst case, best case scenario. So I was very detailed on my business plan, not just from the idea perception, but many other things within the business plan, not financing and operational and marketing. Yeah, so yes.
Yeah, and how'd you go seeking advice from other people? Was that hard for you to get challenged on that outside Christine?
It was hard only because I'm an accountant and a business degree. It was me really doing the things that I have been advising my clients on for many years. Yeah. That's really what it came down to. So I didn't run it by a lot of other people, but I assessed very early that I'm going to need to employ 2 staff within a very short time frame from the business starting. And it was actually sharing the business plan with those people that was a real benefit because I got a second insight. Yeah,
that's great. That actually leads very nicely into the next part of the slide because the people I've worked with that share those sort of insights, often people get stuck on the business plan thinking it's very technical and very structured, but something that I've seen working really well is sharing the vision as a leader too. Where's the business going to go? So if we can go to the next slide, something that we ask all our people who are looking for a side hustle to start with is, what's your client value proposition? In other words, why are you getting out of bed in the morning? Where are you going to get your motivation when you feel crook, when it's hard, when someone's challenged you on your product, your pricing, your service, or your whole business model? What's going to get you out of bed in the morning? And this client value proposition is really giving you the why you do things. Why should anyone else care about what you're doing? And that's really imperative, because guess what? It's everybody else but you that has to buy it, whether it be a product or service. So they need to care about it. But if you don't understand that, you won't be able to share that. And as Roy just spoke about, when you're bringing team members on or stakeholders or engaging in the market, if that why statement or that value statement is not strong enough, then you'll struggle to share it and communicate it, and therefore struggle to take people with you. And what value are you providing to the purchaser? Again, needs to be very clear, because without the presence of value, there's only one thing that becomes relevant, and that's price, which means you're competing on one fixed point, and the market will be full of other people doing something that you do. It may not be exactly the same, but it could be very similar. And if you're only going to compete on price, that's a very, very fast way to start down a slippery slope of cutting out all of your margin, which as a business owner is paramount. That's where you get your profit from, so you can reinvest and grow. So moving the discussion away from just price is a great thing to be very aware of early on. Now, there's two models. You can be complex value, or you can be transactional, and transactional can have a price focus, but you still need to have that other value in either your product or service. And what impact are you making? What are you changing in the market? How are you going to lead a transition of people changing from where they are now to either buy that service or product, or to make them realize that they didn't even know that they needed it if it's a brand new product or service? So how are you going to make an impact and make sure people want to come to you? So the value proposition in our post communications, we'll also share a YouTube video of a guy called Simon Semiak, who talks a lot about why statements or value propositions. But something that most people miss, I found at this stage, is the real understanding of it's a client value proposition. So in other words, what does the client or the market value in your product or service? So most people start to talk about what they can do instead of what they can do for other people. So KP, in your experience, where have you seen people get their value proposition really well, and where have you seen them struggle with it?
That's interesting, Paul. A lot of people who start businesses quite often start it with something that they're very passionate about, that they want to do, or something that they're very good at. And the key thing is that they need to understand their short, medium, and long-term targets or goals, and what they're really in it for. Some people are in it, obviously, to make money. I mean, that's basically what we're all doing it for, isn't it? But also it could be they want to be the best in the business. They want to be have recognition. So the key thing along the way is that they make sure that their plans are adaptable, because if they don't adapt, we go through our short-term goals and we're not really watching where the business is going. We're not looking far enough ahead over the hill. Yeah. This could cause some issues, such as, the Kodak moment, they call it, where all of a sudden you've done all this work and your business isn't worth anything at the end. So the value of your business is really exactly what you've just said. It's about the client value proposition and how valuable that is to people. So we've got something that's always going to be valued, and something that doesn't rely necessarily just on yourself. Have the gathering of the right types of people in the business to be able to help you deliver that to everybody. Yeah.
That Kodak example is fantastic, KP, because the value proposition for all film and photography, when Kodak was still very large, was taking and capturing colour photos and the access, the value of having memories. What they missed the change is people's, or the market's value went from having memories to having those memories easily storable, accessible without having to print. And they missed the boat on that as the market's value changed. In other words, their clients' value changed and they didn't adapt to it. So that's a fantastic reference there. On the slide here, we've got IBM and Apple. Both have two very distinct value propositions and hence target markets. So IBM wants to be the big, the technical, the best business. Apple quite often just say, we just build beautiful computers. They want to really push the edge and attract a different target market. But their value is still about ease of use, intuitive technology. So their value is very much clear. Roy, did you have any points on value proposition?
Yeah, I know our first tick point was to say you've got to have a business plan, and it's got to be written down. And part of that business plan is what is your client value proposition. And you need to have a point of difference. You may be going into a market that you won't be the first in the market, or very unlikely to be. There's other people. So you need to try and have a point of difference. Going in believing that they don't do it very well and you will you're only going to get blindsided and trip yourself up. It's best to have something that is different, and it might be service, but it shouldn't be cost. You go into any business and go, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be the cheapest. It's not a good way, because you're going in there, you might as well call that a hobby if you're going to lose money. So I think your point of difference is very important. And I've seen some, very quickly, I'll just share, in COVID, in lockdown, some people dropping back to JobKeeper. I've actually seen a number of clients go into the business of making masks, and their point of difference has been different patterns, different colours, different shapes, attaching to glasses instead of to the ears. And 3 or 4 different clients have gone into that market. They have just sold stuff through social media, Facebook. One of them set up a website and themselves. So it was low cost items, and it wasn't about being the cheapest. It was about just having a little bit of point of difference and a client value where you can get these, you can get them quickly, they're delivered, and they're different styles. And whether you're talking about the big end, Apple, or the little end, somebody selling some masks, the same principles are going to apply to every business.
Absolutely, and yeah, because without a clientele, it doesn't matter what you've got, and if you don't value them, you'll be out of business. So you're right. I think it's an absolute starting point. Which leads us to the next part there. The next slide, please. If you go into, we've got your value proposition, you've got an idea, you've got your value proposition. Now let's start to define what is or who is your target market. Yeah, and a little bit about why. So if you're starting with why, that's great. Now we need to understand who will see great value in your product and service. If you haven't addressed that in your value proposition already, you're at a bit of a loss, because you're starting to, and this is probably the first hurdle we see, where people tell me about how good their product is. They can't tell me who will value it and why, which means they can't get their price point, they can't get their target market, and they can't do the next part of this step in defining your target market is your demographics, your social demographics and your geographic demographics. How old are they? What's their gender? What's their income? What interests do they have? Where do they live? How can you deliver to them? How can they deliver to you? How do they get access to you? How can they share your values and ideas? And just as importantly, how can you demonstrate you have the same values and ideals as them? Is a really important part in understanding your target market. You would have seen lots of people fail because they got this wrong. Roy, have you got a couple of stories about that?
Oh, I've seen a number of businesses over the years that haven't done a business plan very well. Target marketing is part of your business plan, and you've got to identify and then use the target market for identifying how you're going to market to those people. I'll give you just a brief example where somebody wants to market something right now to teenagers, and they use Facebook. Well, Facebook, mum and dads are on Facebook, but not a lot of teenagers. They're on TikTok or Instagram. So once you know who you're targeting to, it actually determines how you're going to go about marketing. And yes, I won't use any examples, but I've seen a number of people almost in effect skip this part of the business plan because they're passionate about what they are selling or the business they're going into, and they forget that I really need to fine tune and point to who my target is that I'm trying to hit with this product or this service that I'm going to create. Yeah.
I just love that you know what TikTok is, and I'm looking forward to seeing the video when that's up. That'd be great. That can be a challenge. KP, how do you define a target market when you're talking to your clients and your business owners? How do you help coach them through to understand this?
Well, I think we're in a time now where we can start to target our markets and we can filter. Once upon a time, it was the old letterbox drop, and those days are well and truly gone. So now these days we can actually filter, and we can start to target towards specific areas. I think the key thing though is we've got to be very careful that we're looking for a certain target market to start the business up. But we also need to be aware that if we've got the side products, side services, etc., that might expand to other people. It's about those people that we don't know that they wanted. And it's an education as well. So people are aware, oh, I didn't realize that was there. Thanks, I'll have that. So targeting the market, social media, Roy's absolutely right there, has been wonderful for that type of thing. But we also need to be, for us here in Victoria at the moment, is making it accessible. It doesn't matter what we're doing. Accessibility is everything. Everyone, specifically the younger generations, are more impatient, and we need to know how we're going to distribute that. And that needs to also go into the, I guess, the social media or the marketing plan, so people can say, okay, this is what I want. This is how I can get it. I've got a lady, very quick story, but she was making candles. She loved it. And she's taken it from a hobby and she decided that she wanted to make it a small business. And a couple of the things about that is that she's going to sell it at a market, which worked until COVID came in. And now she's sort of stuck, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. So her distribution, which she never even thought of before, was around how to market it, get it out on social media, package it up and send it. So her whole business is stalled. She had one outsource of how she was going to market her business, and that was just through traffic. So those sorts of hobby businesses, they need to have a much better understanding.
Yeah, certainly if they want to grow. These last two slides in particular resonate with me. When I was much younger, lucky enough to have a couple of great mentors, but one of them spoke to me and said, if you want to catch fish, you've got to go where the fish go. And what she was trying to say to me then was, do you understand what type of fish you're after? In other words, what they value? Do you want to be in the same place? And do you want to really articulate and identify where that is? Because make sure everything aims in that direction. Otherwise, it's fluke. So I quite like that. I often think about that because it was really simple, and to me, it really relates to those two slides. It's just a nice little catchphrase. Thanks, Stella. So next part about this, we understand your target market, your demographic, we understand your values. So we're looking where the right people are. They have the same values and ideals as us. We understand a lot about who we're trying to deal with, talk to, engage with. We know their age, their demographic, their income, their values, what they want, and how we can add value to them. So that's all. I was going to say, it's not easy to find, but it is certainly part of what we should be doing as business owners and entrepreneurs. If that's where we're going to start and we want to be successful, we can do that. Now, the counter argument to that is if we can do it, so can everybody else. And I can guarantee you that the marketplace will be full of these pesky little things called competitors. And they may not even be very, very obvious, but there will be lots of distractions for people and for those people that you're trying to sell to, people you're trying to get to buy from you, people you're trying to get to engage with. So understanding your competitors is imperative. So what do they do that works? And why is that important? Because if they're doing it really well, can you do it better? Is it something that you need to change, you need to leverage off? What are they doing that doesn't work? That's the traditional foothold where new competitors can get in. So those first two things here, for those of you who are looking for a side hustle and really, breaking new ground, something to be aware of. There's a thing called first mover advantage. There's also a statement called the first one through the door gets the bloody nose. In other words, you get first mover advantage, but everyone else just sits back and go, what did you not do really well? In other words, is there a portion of your market that we can steal just by doing something better and still do what really works for you anyway? So for those new entrepreneurs, be aware, first one through the door gets the bloody nose. You also get the advantage, but make sure you're looking at everything else. But for those of us who are looking to expand into a current market, there'll be things your competitors aren't doing that great, which will give you that little foothold. And then if you understand your value proposition, you might be able to turn that a bit to grow into a segment or a niche part of that market, which is also a very successful strategy. And Roy, you would have lots of people that you work with that do niche work.
Oh, yes, very much so. And I think this is actually a really important point because most people don't go into a business that they have no knowledge of. You don't have a carpenter who's going to become a plumber. He knows nothing about plumbing. Generally, it's something you've either got some education or you're getting education on, or you've got some experience. Take that experience, examine the competitors, pick out the things that they do really well, and pick out the stuff that they're not that good at. So you can improve on the stuff that they're not good at, and it becomes one of those points of difference. And I think spend a lot of time looking at the competitors before you go into your own side hustle or your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. You agree, KP, or you have a different view?
Look, I do agree. I think what's very important as well is that we don't want to just necessarily just look at what other people aren't doing right and think, okay, this is going to be my point of difference. I'm going to forge forward and I'm going to pick up all the things that they do wrong. Our value proposition, our service, our product has to be, excellent to start off with. Don't go into a business unless it's excellent. You've actually got excellent service. You're acting with integrity, have the patience to wait it through. But Roy said a very interesting point then. He said, you don't have a carpenter and ask him to do plumbing. The point is, if you're incredibly good at something, surround yourself with all the people that are going to help you and bounce off them constantly. Review what you're doing on a regular basis. Review the short-term plans. Where did you actually get to where you were supposed to be at that point, and why not? What your competitors are doing, and they might have moved into different areas. Does that suit your business, or are you on a different road? So we've just got to be not knee-jerk too much around what our competitors are doing, because we're trying to create the perfect product and the perfect service for people.
Yeah, great points. Great points. Difference between being reactive and proactive, and also having some strategic long-term thinking in there. Thanks, guys. The last point on this slide: how can you do it differently to make your side hustle stand out from the pack? When we put this slide together, I thought of a case study. Everyone's heard of Domino's Pizzas. Everyone's heard of a little app called Uber Eats as well. And I remember, it just seems like only recently, but it must be a few years ago now, the CEO of Domino's was getting interviewed, and the interviewer was a bit cocky and started asking about this new competitor to his market. Have you heard about it? It's fantastic. It's called Uber. It's going to revolutionise the industry. And the CEO of Domino's said, mate, we've been delivering food for over 20 years. It was a great little insight to Domino's has already been doing that. Nothing new about getting food delivered to your door. Nothing new about picking up a phone and ringing someone to do it. It used to be landlines. Yes, it's all done differently, but it's the same idea, just expanded on. So this is a bit where that niche has really started to expand. They found that it was a better way that the clients wanted to engage. The average age or the demographic of the food delivery requirements changed. They wanted to interact not by talking, but by using apps and typing, and they wanted to track it, and they wanted to have more than one option. But it was a great little insight to the way a big behemoth was working and thinking. They thought they were already ahead of the game. And I would love to see an interview with the head of the CEO of Domino's now and asked about Uber Eats. But I thought it was a great insight to go, well, yeah, you're right, you have delivered food for a long time, but guess what? Competitors are coming from a different area, and they came from a food delivery company. Their biggest competitor now is an app or a tech company, not even a food company. So completely different competitor analysis. So I find that type of stuff fascinating. And for all of us online today, the market's growing at such a speed, and the access to scale and technology, I think we've really got to start to expand our competitor analysis as well for opportunities for us, but also to start to help ourselves protect. Anything else on competitors, guys, before we move on to the next slide?
I was just going to add, don't be scared to start small. We know that Billabong, they created better board shorts, and they were selling to the back of a ute.
Yep.
You can all start small.
On their kitchen tables, hand sewing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The list on the exchange. Absolutely.
I'm also I know the Hardwick boys who started Cotton On, and they did exactly the same thing. They started it in the back of just a surfboard, combi van, and that's basically how they began it. And it's interesting, as Roy would attest to this, is the Latouf brothers who started Hair House Warehouse. So the hairdressers, what do they know about running a big business? So the first thing that they did when they had this idea of how they were going to position their shops as far as being products as well as hairdressing is they got their team together, and they got the trusted accountant who helped them along the way for all the things that they don't know. So start early with getting the right people around you to help you. If you've got the right idea and it's ingenious and you'd like to work it, start bouncing immediately. Don't hold it in. Yeah,
I agree. That's great approach. Absolutely. So next step, let's I'm conscious of time here, guys. Let's start to put this in place. If we can go to the next slide, I think this is a great place to remove the barriers to entry, like you just spoke about, KP. You've got the drive, the energy, and the idea. Let's start putting some stuff in place. Get a plan for success. So, Roy, what's a business plan look like to you for? We'll do two. We'll do the entrepreneurs starting out and those who have got something going that they now want to expand. So the first one, we'll go the new entries.
Yeah, a new entry. This slide's actually a great slide because a business plan has many components. It's got to cover cash flow. It's got to cover the startup costs, marketing. When do you need staff around you? Are we talking production, service, and a SWOT analysis, which is written at the top of the slide. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I can tell you that if you need finance for this business, the bank is going to want to see a business plan, and they're going to expect that you've bounced it off an accountant and that they've reviewed not just the financial stuff, but you've bounced it off other people who are maybe experiencing the industry. And threats are really important. I'm sure that Virgin Airlines would have had a SWOT analysis, but I doubt that in their threats was a pandemic that was going to affect worldwide. So certainly that's it's important to do the SWOT analysis along with all the other things I just mentioned.
Yeah. Good analysis. You do it SWOT, who people have, or businesses that have survived the pandemic. In their SWOT analysis, and I'm talking Qantas and Hilton, for example, here, they would have had a threat is a poor balance sheet, or in other words, large debt, poor cash flow. So it might necessarily be, a specific pandemic, but those two businesses I spoke about there had that and identified, so they paid down their debt and got cash reserves because there's always a threat coming around. But without putting it down, they wouldn't have addressed it or seeking advice.
Yep. And when you're starting out or you're small, you need to be nimble and be able to swap and change. A business plan is not something that's a document that you write out and you go, there you go, bang, I'm done. Move on to the next step and get some finance and start running the business. You're actually coming back to the business plan. What do I need to tweak? What do I need to change? What are the new threats? Every business now has a pandemic in their list of threats if they're doing this current SWOT analysis. So you need to be nimble and reassess it from time to time.
Yeah. KP, anything from you on getting planned for success?
I think also one of the things that's actually missing off this slide is when we're starting up a new business and we're going full forward ahead, is we've also got to remember the other people behind us and around us. So we've got to keep looking over our shoulder at our family and the effects of doing a business. Are they going to be involved in it? How much they're going to be involved in it? Are they the right people to be involved? And also make sure that they're looked after whatever step that you take. But Roy, I just wanted to ask you a question because I remember having a conversation with you some time ago. It's also about having that vision and exactly what you just said. So if I asked you, how much time do you spend working actually in your business as an accountant versus having the vision and looking on your business?
The business today is very different to what it was when I started 27 years ago. Today, in my business, I only see clients for 2.5 days out of 5. So I'm doing a lot of other things, and that's marketing and it's visionary stuff and at a very high level. So 2.5 days out of 5, I'm working on the business, but our business has grown to a point where you need to have somebody doing that. And I don't take on a lot of new clients. I look after the existing clients. But if I can think back to when we started 27 years ago, and we were lucky, we had a vision to do tax returns and accounts, and we bounced out of the block so fast, and we had a worst case scenario financial and a best case, and we blew away the best case in the first 3 months, not just 12. So we were surprised, and I had to be very nimble and very quick and reassess a whole range of things within our business plan and employ different staff and new staff. So you do need to think about, and I remember when I was so busy in the first year, I still would find time, and often when you're in business, people say I've gone into business so I can have more time to myself. Forget that. That doesn't happen. It means what you're actually doing is you're working 24/7. When you're awake, you're thinking about your business because you're not just going to work to get a paycheck. And often on a Saturday, and more so at the end of a month, I'd know what my monthly figures were. I'd be looking at it and I'd be reassessing over the breakfast on a Sunday morning with my wife and say, what are we going to do different now? What do we need to change? So a lot of people say you should assess it at least annually, your business plan. And I think it depends on the size of the business and how fast and how nimble you need to be. But business plans can be assessed a lot more than annually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a great point. It's a great insight to the life of a business owner too. It's Saturday, Sundays, midnights, it's whatever it takes. You know, emptying the bin, sweeping the floors to seeing the clients and ordering. Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of business plan, particularly for those who are starting off or even just looking to expand, I love being able to put it all on one page. I think that's a real challenge. It certainly will grow beyond that, and it should grow beyond that, but I think it's a great starting point if you can get it on one page. And I don't mean using small writing, but being clear and concise to address what's important to keep you moving. And one of the biggest things on that is how you reassess. So to start with, I don't mind seeing a business plan on one page with, you know, weekly goals, you know, 1 week, 2 week, 4 week, 6 weeks to actually start on top of it. So like you said there, Roy, on Sundays or particularly at the end of the month, you're reassessing your cash flow. Sometimes a month's too long, particularly if you're starting out. So I'd like to see it at one page and continue to reassess as you grow, and then you can get your rhythm. You've also got trends to look back on. It might be monthly, it might be quarterly. But if you don't have those trends and you don't have that data, you've really got very little to look on or to leverage from in your ability to forecast. So your plan becomes much larger part of everything you do beyond that as you start to expand. And it really does give you a wealth of knowledge to think forward if you look backwards at it. So it's a great historical point to look at too. Next slide, please. Structure is important. This really sits with you, Roy. Could I get you just to address quickly the pros and cons of a few of these things? Ideally, clearly, you're going to see you about this and your team.
Yeah.
Some people.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, too often this conversation comes after the business idea or process has got too far down the track. This is one of the early discussions that you want to have with the accountant, advisor. The structure, sole trader, partnership, company, trust, they have different cost structures from what's less than $100 at the left-hand side sole trader to a couple of grand having a company with a trust attached. I can't give an answer as to which is best. We know that sole trader and partnership do have exposure to public liability issues. If you get sued, your personal assets are exposed. But we also know that from starting a new business, low cost is critical. So we may not start off as a company or a trust, depending on the type of business it is. And when you set all that up, depending on, assuming it is a partnership, a company or trust, you do need a separate tax file number, ABN, and you need to assess GST registration. You need to consider licensing. We have clients working from home, hairdressers, therapists, remedial masseurs. They work from home. You need to identify, do I need a permit from the local council? And I could turn around and say the answer is yes. I will say it's yes in most cases, but councils have certain regulations you need to check. You can't forget about insurance. You don't go into a business without insurance. And you've got to think about bookkeeping and accounting. There are options for accounting and bookkeeping. You know, there's MyOb, there's Cashflow Manager, there's QuickBooks, and there's Xero. We're accredited with all those. We have a preference, and we actually hesitate on taking on clients who use, I shouldn't say hesitate, our preference is not to take on clients who use Cashflow Manager or QuickBooks. So we have a strong preference towards Xero because it's so easy and it's online, and accountants love MyOb because debits and credits and balance sheets, etc. But clients who aren't accountants, they love Xero. So we tend to push people towards Xero. But these are the structure, and these sort of conversations are tick boxes we as an accountant are going to go through with every client that talks to us about a new business.
Yeah, great points. And that actually answers some of the questions that came through earlier about what business software we can be using. And I agree, in my businesses, accountants, Xero is miles ahead of everyone else. Okay, are you ready to go? So we've got over 100 people online today. In 4 words or less, or 5 words or less. KP, if these guys and girls are ready at the end of the line, what's your top 5 points or 2 points they could do today? Because they've got to start. How are they going to get started?
Roy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. We're re-emphasising what we've already said. If you're about to go into business, your business plan is up here. It's in your head.
Yeah.
Write it down. That's number one. Write it down. Then my second point would be to get it bounced around with an accountant. And it's not about just selling RJS. If it's not us, it's got to be an accountant. You just don't go into business without an accountant or advisor who's experienced in business and advisory work, having a look at it. We're not just looking at the numbers. We do want to look at the numbers, because if it's not viable, we will tell you this is not viable, but we want to look at the rest of the plan as well. So that'd be my two main points.
Great points. KP?
Be careful what you don't know that you don't know. And when you make decisions, I mean, I've had businesses in the past, you can make decisions and you think they're the right ones because you just don't know any better. So if you've got the right team of people around you from the very beginning that you can bounce off, they're professional, they've had a lot of experience, ask all the questions so you don't make a mistake that you regret 5 or 10 years in the future that you should have done it differently. The other point that I'd like to make as well is it's the same as, and Roy, I'm sure you'll attest to this, is when you start a business, you spend so much time in the business to make it successful. Be very wary of your family. Make sure that they're looked after. Don't drain personal cash flow to put it into the business because you're expecting it to expand. Look after both areas of your life and make sure that they're both covered. And then you'll be successful, both lifestyle-wise and also business-wise.
It's important to have that both because that's where you get your drive from. Yeah, good points, good points. Okay, we've got a heap of questions here, guys. I'll rattle a few off to you guys. Roy, how much tax will I pay in my business?
Well, we know that the first $20,500 is tax-free if you're trading as a sole trader. We know that a partnership splits their income between two people. We know that a company pays tax at 28.5%. And we know that a trust pays no tax and it distributes to family members and a certain amount, a small amount, to children or people under 18. So it's not a one answer fits everybody. When somebody comes in to have a talk to us about the structure, we actually will talk and ask questions about their family and what's their circumstances and what cost structure we should be putting you into. So it's not a one answer fits everybody. It's in that conversation. Our recommendation on your structure is going to be about how do we save or pay the minimum tax possible.
Yeah, there's quite a number of questions that relate very similar to that. How do I integrate my earnings? How will I use my slowly growing side hustles income? What other way can I get my income into my household? All of those would be very much related to an accounting discussion. Yeah. Yes,
whether it's a sole trader or whether it's a trust, you can take money, assuming it's say a company or a family trust, which go together. You may have a separate bank account. How you take that money out of that separate bank account, which I'd say you may have, you should have. You take it out as a dividend, a director's fee, or a wage, and they have different tax implications or cost implications, but they're going to be income. So if your main job is earning you $70,000, and you earn another $10,000 in this side hustle, we know that your tax is going to be somewhere around 34%. So we will plan for that based on your other income.
Yeah, fair enough. And then it goes on to how do you pay yourself, which you just covered as well. Great, yeah, they're all the same. Here's one, KP, you might be able to answer this one. My side hustle is slowly growing, but how do I make it explode? Yes, good.
So, I mean, that's good to hear that it's going to explode. And I think the part of this story is to actually know when you know it's not going to explode. So know when it's not going to work and don't leave it too long before you choose not to go down that road.
I think it meant how do I make it go better?
Oh, how to go better. Okay, so it's got to that stage. Okay. Number one, all the things we basically talked about previously, and that is really around making sure that you've got the right team of people, get the right business coaches, really explore your competition, but not just here in Australia, just globally. Find out other things. Get very educated in your product. Understand also of how much time that you want to remove from being in the business so you can actually work on the business yourself. But don't do that on your own. Nobody is clever at everything. We must make sure that we have the team. But the other side of it as well is, and I keep going back on this one, you'll get sick of hearing about this, but basically about your family as well. You'll be successful if your family are taken care of. You don't want to look over your shoulder and see that your family are suffering. That's a big turn off for any business. Make sure that you're looking after them going forwards as well. And that's all about making sure cash flow's right, their future's set up properly. You've got insurances for them because you've had a heart attack because you've worked too hard in your business. All those little bits and pieces, make sure that that's right as well. Exploding the business is making sure have the team of people, the accountant, the business coach. It could be a mentor, somebody else who's in that business anyway, and perhaps they're just going to give you some consultation.
Yeah, great points. I'd add to that. Define what you mean by explode. Are you growing scale? Are you just growing size? Often, and it's something that Roy will talk a lot to you guys, and his team will talk to you a lot about as a business owner. What's your margin? What's your profit? And you really want to be starting to focus on growing that. So exploding your profit might not necessarily be putting on a new truck, a new business. Expanding to growing the size of your business is something that I see businesses get themselves in trouble for. They define the wrong things and actually end up putting on more costs just to have a bigger footprint, and their margin either stays the same or starts to slowly decrease.
I might add, Paul, more sales or more turnover doesn't necessarily mean more profit. So be wary of that, firstly. But to that person who asked the question, I've never heard anybody say in business, my product that I sell or my service that we give is crap. We all think it's good. Yeah. So I would assess the service or the product firstly, and you might do that by a customer survey to make sure that you've got a really good product. And then if you have, and you've already got the systems in place to market this product, and you've got the backup, whether it's people, production, whatever, to explode your business, then it's going to come down to some marketing. And I'll be looking at marketing, how you go about marketing it different.
Yeah, great points. There's another, I'll finish the last question. Xero and the like are very expensive for a small new business. Is there a less expensive way to get started?
Well, great question, but Xero is not expensive.
You like it?
Think about what Xero costs. If your income is under 75,000 and you're not charging GST or sending out invoices, you can get Xero through an accounting firm like RJS for $10 a month. If you are GST registered, it's about $20 a month. I think it's 19 to be precise. And then if you're in business, you need invoicing, you need payroll, and you need GST registration, and you're going to pay around $50 a month. That's not expensive. In the old days, 10 years ago, you'd be paying $6,000, $8,000, $1,000 for software, and then you'd be paying upgrades of $300, $400, $500 a year. So technology has made Xero and MyOb similarly very cheap. Xero is just a better product than MyOb.
Yeah, I agree. I think it doesn't say this person's name, but I think you've addressed it in the wrong way. In looking for that, you don't have to own that product. You can go through RJS and get that license. So you don't pay per license for your teams. So a couple of $100 a year for your ability. Look at it a different way. Without it, you can't send invoices, and that's how you make money. Essential tool for a couple of $100. Ladies and gents, that'll bring us into our questions. The team is always readily available, so you will be receiving some post-webinar communications. Gives you access to ask more questions right back to us. You'll have access to all of what that we've covered today and a couple of more tools. We will be sending you out the structure for a one-page plan, some tools to help with that. We'll be sending you out a YouTube about a why statement from Simon Semi. It's on YouTube. We're just going to send it to you. It's a fantastic place to start. And of course, also everybody here today, please reach out. We're very happy for you joining us today to offer a consultation with our small business team, with Roy and his team, with KP and her team. Please reach out. We're happy to help and start this project with you guys and give you the push that you might need, give you the support, give you the cuddle, give you the information so you can make some empowered decisions about what your next step is. We're here to help. So please feel free to take that offer up. We'd love to help.
I might add, Paul, there's one other thing we are sending out, which is a guide, how to start your own business. And it'll cover off what we've just talked about. Although you can go back to the webinar at any point. This is a written guide that's really comprehensive with tick boxes. So that's very beneficial for anybody going into a small business.
Yeah, great. We just got someone right back saying that sounds great. Now, also, here's a bit of feedback for all of us, which is fantastic. It's a great chance for us to demonstrate why teaching while talking to the market is great. Roy, we've just got a question or a note here from someone who's a client saying, I didn't know I could get zero with you guys. I'll call my local office. Thanks. That's something we'll take on board. We'll make sure more people know about that because it's a fantastic way to engage and it's something that we offer through. So thank you. You didn't put your name, but thank you very much. If you do send me your name, I'm sure Roy will send you a bottle of wine. So
Perfect.
Perfect. We'd like to say thank you because that's the type of feedback we love to hear from the market. Any other feedback, please let us know. Oh, here we go. Got it. Luke, you got a bottle of wine coming your way. I'll send you details. For everybody else, please feel free to take up this offer. The next slide talks about the other webinars we've got coming up in the future. It's something that we're very much focused on is interacting and engaging with our client base and of course the wider market. So please feel free to invite your friends and family along or anybody you know. We know it's tough times, particularly in Victoria, but all over the place. And now's the time that we can reach out and supply lots more content, lots more information for everybody at home and at work to make some empowered decisions and grab some advice. But as always, please pick up the phone, drop us an email, talk to us. These little webinars are just great ways to engage. We have fun doing them and we really appreciate everybody sending in details so we can continue to write this content. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day. KP, Roy, always great to see you. Thanks very much. And Luke and I will look forward to that bottle of wine we got coming on our way.
It's in the mail.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy.
Yeah, bye-bye.